We're going to be a little bit out of sync in our walks through Mark, and that's okay. We've been in chapter 1 for quite a while, and we've been taking it very, very slowly. And we have seen Jesus in Capernaum. He begins with his teaching there in the synagogue, and then he moves to Simon's house. He heals Simon's mother-in-law. The people come to the door that night in Capernaum, and the whole city was gathered there, and he heals people of various diseases. He casts out demons. He doesn't permit the demons to speak. And then when morning comes, while it's still dark, Jesus goes off and he finds a very quiet place to pray. And we talked about that. We talked about contemplation, the need for prayer and personal solitude. People come looking for him, led by Simon, and then they say, everyone's searching for you, and he answers. And this is where I want to begin to ask you to focus today a little bit, and we're going to dive into it. Now, we've kind of kept up with the daily lectionary readings and the weekly lectionary readings a little bit, but we're not going to stay in perfect sync with that. And if you're reading the lectionary, you're in chapter 2. You're into chapter 2 today. And I'm going to give you that information, but I'm slowing it down a little bit because eventually we're going to be back in sync with everything else. But when the disciples are trying to get Jesus to go back to Capernaum, because everybody's looking, he says, let's go unto the neighboring towns so that I may proclaim the message there also, for that's what I came to do. There is a need to know when it's time to move on and to spread the seed. Now, Jesus will tell parables about scattering seed, but he is going to cover a large territory. And in Jesus' sense of mission, he knows what it is he needs to do and where it is he needs to do it. And so Mark says he went throughout Galilee proclaiming the message in their synagogues and casting out demons. And so he's doing the same thing he did in Capernaum, but of course they're different people, and they're different demons, and they're different synagogues. But he's still welcome in the synagogues. He's still welcome to go there. He honors the tradition. And then it introduces the next story. And that's where we're going to do a little bit of studying as we go along. A leper came to him begging him, and kneeling he said to him, if you choose, and I think some of your translations are going to say, if you're willing. So in the comments, you might want to make note of what is your translation of any of these. If you are willing, if you choose, you can make me clean. Moved with pity, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, I do choose. Be made clean. You might want to explore a little bit. What motivates Jesus? You know, the word motivation and the word move in almost every language are really rooted in the same concept. What moves you motivates you, because motivate and motion, you can see that we're talking about the same concept, the same word. Motivate is to move. It is an internal trigger that gets us moving. What moved Jesus? What motivated Jesus? What got Jesus in motion? And here it says pity. Now study that word a little bit and understand that it is not the kind of pity that looks down on people, but it is the kind of pity that arises from compassion and empathy. Now you're going to hear me preach on this, and I hope this doesn't spoil the sermon. I'm going to preach on it. I'm going to explore it. We're going to have a little more digging into it. But then Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, I do choose, be made clean. Immediately the leprosy left him and he was made clean. Now, the concept of clean and unclean is associated with leprosy, and it's a historical and cultural concept that leprosy made you unclean. And that was really a big deal for the people living in Jesus' culture and Jesus' time and Jesus' day and their understanding of religion. Ritual cleanliness, ritual uncleanliness, you are ceremonially clean or you're ceremonially unclean. As bad as the disease was, it was even worse to be considered ceremonially unclean because it made you an outcast. Now, after severely warning him, he sent him away at once, saying to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer your cleansing, what Moses commanded, as a testimony to them. In other words, Jesus was concerned in getting the guy back in community, back in legitimate relationship, and he had to go through all these things with the priest to do that. But when he went out, he began to proclaim it freely and spread the word so that Jesus could no longer go into town openly. So the thing is, why did Jesus tell the guy not to tell everybody? Keep your trap shut. You ever do somebody a favor and they say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and you say, don't mention it to anyone. Well, it's because there are consequences to the word getting out. But he couldn't go out. I mean, everybody was coming. But he stayed out in the country, and people came to him from every quarter. So circumstances will determine where we are. They may alter our strategy, and that was also true in the life and the ministry of Jesus. So what are the thoughts you're going to take away from this reflection today? Nothing polished about this. What are you going to do with these words? What questions arise? Post them in the comments. We will get to them, and you may actually influence the course of the message.